Hi everyone, welcome back to the Real Matters Unfiltered Analysis. My name is Yiling here, and today we'll be talking about Dunearn House, which has been one of the more talked about new launch in the market lately. But is it worth the hype? Because in reality, not every CCR location performs the same way. For example, if we are actually comparing to Great Wall areas versus the Central Business District and towards Bukit Timah, all of them have very different demand drivers, buyer profiles, and long-term fundamentals. Plus, in recent times, we have also seen Real Modern, which is the newest CCR project that has launched earlier this year itself, selling well over 90% of their units at above 3,200 per square foot, setting a new benchmark price for the market. With the CCR new launches now comfortably transacting well above $3,000 per square foot, buyers are also asking a bigger question: where does Dunearn House fit in today's climate? In this video, we are analyzing what really matters in terms of Dunearn House location, pricing strategy, competition, long-term potential, and most importantly, some of the risks that the buyers need to look out for if they are interested in this project. Now, let's dive right into it. Dunearn House is a joint venture between Fraser Properties, CSC Land and Security House, which are developers behind the Ori, Grand Diamond and Watertown. This project is actually built on a land size of approximately 150,000 square feet of land size, which offers full-fledged condo facilities, including a 50-meter lap pool, tennis court, gym, something that many nearby resale properties in this particular area do not have. The project is also designed by On and On, which is an architect firm behind the developments like Jadescape, known for its distinctive facade and strong market appeal. Now, to break down a little further for Dunearn House itself, it sits on the Swiss Club Enclave with a north-south orientation serving a total of 5 blocks, 2 of it being 19 stories high and 3 others closer towards the main road area being 10 stories high, giving the prestige collection of the 19 stories high a premium GCB facing with greenery view. Moving on to the price matrix and the unit mix, as of the time of this filming itself, we have received the starting from price from the developer. But of course, flashing right over here itself is actually the indicative prices for the different PSF, but feel free to pause on the screen to take a closer look. Now, one thing immediately that stood out is the unit mix, which 54% of the project consists of larger family size homes such as the 3 and the 4 bedder, which tells us who the developer are actually targeting. Now, on to the price guide. We are seeing that the 2 bedder are starting from 1.475 million, which equates to about 2,799 per square foot. 3 bedder starting from price at $2.597 million, which the PSF equates to close to 3,000 PSF. And finally itself, for the 4 bedder, starting from is 3.588 million, and the starting PSF is already at 3,030. So these are just the starting prices, but of course we do know that the average price will be slightly higher lah. But whenever we look into a project, we don't just ask what the price is, but we also ask what's the biggest risk in terms of this particular project. And for Dunearn House, this is probably one of the key discussions that a lot of us need to look into. For the risk, we can see that Dunearn House is situated among many freehold boutique developments, and most of them are actually older as well. After filtering through, 2 newer TOP condo developments of similar size came up, which are number 1, Royal Green, which is a freehold development, and number 2, 4th Avenue Residences, which is a 99-year leasehold development. And as we compare the performance in terms of profitability, they didn't perform really strongly, with 4th Avenue highest profitability at 471,000 and for Royal Green at 285,000 as the highest, which investors in particular along the same time period could have entered into projects like Riverfront Residences, Treasure at Tampines and Jadescape, which performance are much stronger. So with the risk and performance highlighted, I know many buyers are still excited because this is the first new launch in the area in more than 30 years. Now, the bigger question to ask is whether buyers are still willing to pay a premium for a 99-year leasehold development when there are other freehold boutique projects nearby. To address this particular risk, we are looking into District 15, which is an area that has a similar trait. Right over here, we have an example of a price chart between Tembusu Grand versus Chelsea Lodge, which is a much older boutique freehold project. What we are saying here is that between the new and the old itself, there's actually a 75% price gap differences, with the 99-year leasehold being the higher one. Despite this statistic itself, Tembusu Grand still delivered a stronger profitability compared to the freehold boutique development in the nearby development. But of course, this is actually a very tailored and skewed comparison because we are not comparing apple to apple, but if we are taking into consideration to compare a 99 big development to a freehold big development, in this example itself, we have Amber Park and Seaside residences. Now over here, for the new resale development versus the newer freehold development, we are still seeing a price gap of 25% and up to 32% in the recent times. At the end of the day, when we are comparing a very similar apple to apple comparison itself, it still stands from a standpoint that freehold development still has a premium to be paid for, and buyers are willing to pay for it. So after looking at the macro risk in terms of this particular area over here at Dunearn House, we are now zooming into the micro factors, which we are comparing it with the resale development in terms of the layouts that is available, because am I right to say buyers that are actually looking into this area will be comparing it with all the available unit types within their quantum. Now, right over here, we won't be comparing it with every single layouts, but of course we did pick a few itself to make a fair comparison, so that as we are actually looking into Dunearn, these are the options and some of the layouts that is available in the market that people will compare it with. So right over here, we will kickstart with the 2-bed 2-bath plus study, which we are comparing for Dunearn House. It is at 678 square feet harmonized. 4th Avenue Residences 710 square feet non-harmonized, and Royal Green 818 square feet non-harmonized. Now, for the Dunearn House itself, we are seeing an enclosed kitchen, and if the developer were to have an average PSF of 3,000, the quantum that we are looking at is about 2.034 million. Now, this layout is actually very interesting because we have a enclosed kitchen, a dedicated dining space, and a dedicated study area, which can be knocked down itself to make the living space or the dining space a little bit bigger also. Now, if we were to compare it with the 4th Avenue Residences, the past transacted price point that we are seeing is, and the most recent, is at about 1.9 million in terms of the quantum price. Now, for this particular layout, 710 square feet, it may not be the most ideal in terms of the kitchen area, because right when we open the main door itself, we are seeing the kitchen directly, which is along the walkway, may not be very enticing to the buyers or to some of the owners that are actually looking at 2-bed 2-bath. And for this particular layout at 710 square feet, it does not come with a dedicated study area. Moving on to the Royal Green. For Royal Green 818 square feet, it is a similar layout compared to Dunearn House, but of course for the study area that we are seeing here, it is right at the entrance that is a little bit small in terms of the area itself, which some of the buyers or homeowners may convert it into a holding shelter instead. And of course for the enclosed kitchen, it comes with a window, common bath, and the master bath also comes with window as well. One thing that to highlight is that for the balcony area at Royal Green, it is going across towards the common bedroom area as well, which is relatively large. Give and take, some buyers may like it, some buyers may not. But of course, important factor is that it has already been transacted at 2.3 million to 2.35 million in the past 2 years. So in terms of quantum wise, in this area itself, people are already accepting at 2.3 million for a freehold development. But of course, if you were to compare in terms of efficient layout and entry price itself, Dunearn House may stand a better chance for this 2-bed 2-bath plus study. Okay, moving on to the 3-bed plus study. For Dunearn House, we are comparing it to a 969 square feet in terms of the unit size, harmonized. 4th Avenue Residences 1,109 square feet non-harmonized, and for Royal Green 1068 square feet or 1044 square feet non-harmonized. If we were to zoom in a little bit deeper based on the price matrix itself, we do know that the starting price or starting PSF for Dunearn House is actually going in at 3,000. Of course, if the average were to translate it into 3,100 PSF, we are looking at a quantum entry price of $3 million or slightly higher. If you were to zoom in a little bit more into this particular layout, of course, we have a enclosed kitchen with a water closet and a holding shelter and a dedicated study area, which can be knocked down to enlarge into a bigger master bedroom, or combining it so that it comes together to make the master bedroom feels a bit larger. If we were to compare it to the 4th Avenue Residences layout over here, the past transacted price point where we stand from the 3 million quantum itself to the 109 square feet quantum, we are looking at a similar quantum because it has already transacted up to $3.1 million accepted already. For this particular layout, what is the key difference here is that what we are seeing in terms of the master bedroom, there is a balcony of a similar size towards the living area, which can be a double-edged sword because some buyers may prefer much higher usable space, or that is actually within the unit itself. And of course, for the study area, it's actually a dedicated study area. However, it does not come with a dedicated holding shelter, which is our storeroom. One plus point maybe for 4th Avenue residences is that it has a dedicated yard area. But of course, with so much balcony space, maybe the yard area may be converted into a storeroom, and then of course dedicated study area can be converted into a main study area also. Now moving on to Royal Green, we are actually seeing in terms of the 3-bed 3-bath a very similar layout towards their 2+ study, just with an extra common bedroom that is actually spanning across towards the living area. But good thing is that for the common bedroom 3 itself, we can actually knock down the wall to enlarge the entire living space. But of course, it already has an efficient layout in terms of a dedicated dining zone, living area, and a balcony that is actually running across towards the first common bedroom. Same thing as well for this particular layout over here. There is a dedicated yard area plus a dedicated study area, but one thing that it does not have is a dedicated holding shelter, which is actually comfortable from the study area. Now, in terms of the past transacted price point for Royal Green, we are also seeing at about 3 million to 3.1 million in terms of the quantum. Now, comparing in terms of the efficiency across overall, of course, end of the day, because of harmonization, layout may seem a little bit smaller, but end of the day, when we compare it across towards the 3 layout itself, Dunearn House once again provides a fresh perspective in terms of efficient layout that is much more usable in terms of the overall enclosed living space. Last but not least, we are comparing with the 4-bedroom plus study or 4-bedroom premium layouts. So for Dunearn House, we are looking at the 1378 square feet layout, and for 4th Avenue, 1475 square feet layout, and for Royal Green, 1432 square feet layout. Starting off with Dunearn House, we already know that the starting PSF for the 4-bedder is slightly above 3,000, but of course, if the average PSF we are looking at is 3,100 again, we are looking at a quantum of 4.2 to 4.3 million in the quantum. For 4th Avenue, past transacted at 1475 is at 3.888 million. Non-harmonized. If you were to harmonize it, likelihood is actually looking at close to 4 million as well. And for Royal Green, past transacted for the past 2 years, there hasn't been any record, but of course, when we are using the average past transaction in terms of the PSF multiplied by the square footage of the 4-bedder over here, we are also looking at a $4 million quantum for a freehold development. Now, if you were to compare it for the layout comparison itself, one thing that stood out for Dunearn House is that for this particular layout, we do have an island countertop at the center of the kitchen area, which is actually rare in the market that a lot of buyers may be looking at. Compared to the 4th Avenue residences, for this particular layout, we have a junior ensuite. Dunearn House do not have. For families that are living with parents, this may be more enticable for them, and the quantum is looking at about 200,000 lower in terms of the quantum compared to Dunearn House average price. But finally itself, looking into Royal Green. For Royal Green, what we are seeing here is actually a much more efficient layout with a junior ensuite and a master that is of decent size. One thing that we may be able to complain itself is that the master bedroom has a small balcony, which is relatively not as usable because at most put a small dining area over there that maybe some people may deem it as a wasted space. But of course, when we are comparing it with the dry kitchen to the wet kitchen, with the utility and the yard and the living space, Dunearn House is actually 200,000 price differences, and for Royal Green itself is a freehold development. We still need to look into the price gap during the unit selections and of course the facing to meet your objective. So after weighing both the opportunities and the risk, why would people still buy into Dunearn House? From a product standpoint, Dunearn House offers a rare brand new development with full-fledged condo facilities, MRT connectivity, and a prestige address at this price point. The harmonized layout also makes the entry more accessible, allowing buyers to re-enter into Bukit Timah at a lower overall quantum despite today's higher PSF. And as one of the first private launches in the wider turf city transformation, early buyers could benefit being the first mover. That's why your exit strategy is also just as important as your entry. When it comes to the exit strategy, the long-term turf city transformation is definitely something to look out for. But in the shorter term, I actually think that one of the better indicators is how developers themselves have priced this location. Now, if you were to take a look, Dunearn House attracted 9 bidders and the winning bid was only 4 to 6% higher than their previous few. Then, not long after, the neighbouring GIS site was also sold at 1,625 per square foot per plot ratio, which is eventually 200 TSF higher. To me, that reinforces the continued confidence for this particular area, but of course, none of these guaranteed future price growth, but it's a positive signal that supports Dunearn House long-term positioning when thinking about your eventual exit. That said, not every unit is equal. Choosing the right layout, facing, and entry price will make a big difference when it comes to exit. If you're considering Dunearn House, feel free to reach out to us. We'll be happy to walk you through our exit strategy, help you decide whether if it's the right fit for your needs. So if you like a personalized analysis, we'll be happy to help you compare the best option across Singapore and identify the one that truly fits your objective. If you find this helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe and let us know in the comment which project you'd like us to analyze next. We'll see you in the next episode.